speaking of people wanting to improve their lives, the other main question I got asked was, given the current political climate, and it is certainly scarier out there now than it was in 2016, 2017, do you have advice for the average person on how to fight back or not be influenced or not be scared in the current political climate?
Yeah, it's a great question. And that is the thrust of what my book is about. I don't think that I'm somehow an exceptional person. For some reason, I say what I think, right? Your dad, I do consider him to be an exceptional person, but what is he doing in essence? He has a breadth of work over decades, and now he says what he thinks. All the people that we admire in the world, every hero in every movie that you love, what do? They say what they think. And yet we live in a time where if you live in the West, you live in Canada, you live in the United States, you are free. You are extraordinarily free. And yet we are the ones putting ourselves in servitude. We're the ones that are silencing ourselves. So I just did a PragerU video a couple months ago called The Bravery Deficit. And I think we have a massive bravery deficit. Now, that isn't to say that there aren't good reasons for being quiet, right? People are afraid of losing their jobs. People are afraid of losing their friends. They're afraid of being mobbed on Facebook and Twitter. That is all legit. So I'm not putting that down. But the problem is that the more that good people, just the average person, right, who has, let's say, whatever moderate political beliefs there are, the more that you're quiet, you think what you're doing basically is you think, oh, I'm just going to let this thing ride. I'm going to ride it out. I'm going to ride it out and it'll skip over me. But that is simply not how this thing works. This radical movement that is spreading like a virus all over the West, it is preying on our silence. So I'll give you a good example. I love the Golden Girls, okay? Every Sunday for the last 10 years, there's a Golden Girls marathon on TV Land, and that's what David and I do for a couple hours. It's like the only television I watch. Well, you may have seen this week that Hulu, which also has the Golden Girls, they announced that they're taking away a season 3 episode of the Golden Girls because Rose, who's Betty White, and Blanche, Rue McClanahan, they're in mud masks, and that's now blackface. Now, the entire episode actually is about the fact that Dorothy's son, who's white, is marrying a black woman, and the families come together. There's some funny jokes about cultural differences and the rest of it. But the entire episode, not only do they get married at the end, the entire episode is about white people and black people coming together. And this is about 1987 or so. Now, Hulu decides to get rid of it. And it's like, who made that decision? And now, yes, there's some executive somewhere that had to sign something saying we're going to get rid of the Golden Girls because that episode is racist. I mean, are we going to take out 98-year-old Betty White at this point? But the reason I mention this is no one in their right mind. I could not find one person, even in the hellscape that is Twitter, I could not find one person that thought that Golden Girls episode was racist or worthy of taking down. But so how does it happen? Fear. All it is fear that a whole bunch of us are quiet. And then I don't know if you ever saw the movie The Never-Ending Story. It's a great childhood, it's a kid's movie basically. But there's a creature in it. The bad guy is a creature called the Nothing. And what the Nothing really is that we all of us stop imagining things. We stop expressing ourselves. And that is what the destruction of the world is. And I really believe that that's what's happening right now. We're all afraid to speak. We're all afraid to share. We're all afraid to go out on the edge and really experience what life is, which is figuring out what you think. And the more that we do that, we give room for this evil nothing to come. And next thing you know, we're going to take out the Golden Girls. And then, by the way, you'd have to take out literally every episode of Seinfeld. You'll have to take out every episode of Family Guy and certainly The Simpsons. And now The Simpsons have said that they're not going to have non-black actors play roles that are white, even though The Simpsons are yellow. I mean, the whole thing is so stupid.
Yeah. But Dad was not pleased about that.
Right. Well, he would talk about all the time that the one thing he would have you guys watch as kids was The Simpsons, and those formative years, that you take Simpsons, seasons 4 to 10 roughly. that's like the best 6 years of satire maybe in American history. But now suddenly, Apu can't be a character, or at least can't be a character voiced by white Hank Azaria, even though Hank Azaria...
Are they actually going to change his voice? What are they going to do?
Well, Hank Azaria has said that he's not going to do it anymore. I've heard that they're not even going to have Apu in the show. I mean, I'm not sure if that part's true, but think about how insane this is. Every episode with Apu, I know you've seen them. I mean, the most seminal episode of Apu is the Quickie Mart episode. Who needs the Quickie Mart, right?
Yeah.
The famous song, Who Needs a Quickie Mart? The whole purpose of the episode is to show that he's a true American. He's a hardworking immigrant. There's other episodes where he has an Indian wedding. He talks to Lisa about veganism. He's accepted. Yeah. He's probably the hardest working, best citizen in all of Springfield.
Oh, for sure.
The rest of them
kindest.
Kind and decent and everything else. But they want to destroy everything. So to fully bring that full circle, this bravery deficit, to answer your question, is what people need to do. I know it sounds scary, but you've got to figure out the spaces where you can speak up a little bit more. It doesn't mean just get on Facebook and say you're a Trump supporter tomorrow, although, yes, you're allowed to support the president of the United States. That's not a crime yet, as far as I know. But whatever little spaces you have in your life to speak up a little bit more, just because your sister, is a radical leftist, you think by being quiet, that's going to make it better. But yet, you know what? 20 years from now, when you've lost all your rights and now all the bad ideas of that, truly govern over you, you're going to go, I probably should have spoke up more. So basically, if you're not speaking up, you're a frog in a slowly boiling pot, and it does not end well for the frog.
Yeah. Okay. That's kind of what I think. I asked my dad, because I was like, some people, what if they're in a position where they're going to lose their job and all their friends? And his advice was, slowly start to make other friends, right? Like, don't be friends with people who are going to dump you if you start telling the truth. Those aren't friends.
And by the way, by the way, yes, without question, you will lose friends. If you start speaking up against this thing, you will lose friends. You might lose family members. Sure. You might lose hair. There's just no doubt about it. But what you will find, and I know this with absolute certainty, is if you start saying what you believe and you lose some friends, which you will find better friends on the other side, because what you will find is you will find people who value you for your truth. And that is so, what is a friendship? If a friendship is a one-way street where they're allowed to say whatever they want, but you can't say what you want, that's actually not a friendship. The part that sucks, especially for young people, is that it really is hard. You're 18, 19, 20 to go, whoa, like I'm going to say something and now my friends, like your whole world is wrapped up in your friends in a way. I think in a weird way, this isn't totally true and it depends on your temperament, but in a weird way, I think when you're older, and maybe you have a little more money in the bank, or you have a job or a family or something else, you might be willing to, your whole world isn't totally wrapped up in your friend group. And I think maybe it's sometimes easier, but that partly depends on just how you're wired, I think.